Alright, you join me in the next episode of my E46 big overhaul and refresh, whatever you want to call it. In the last episode, we basically finished tearing it all down and we put new engine mounts on. And in this episode, we're going to be installing the rest of the new parts that I've got and putting it all back together, maybe even start the car. We'll see what happens. Right, my new vacuum hose has finally arrived, so I'm going to be putting this on and finally getting the intake manifold back on now. Now this here, which actually goes into one of the air intake boots, I think it's the top one, then that one goes off to the CCV, and this line here goes down to the fuel filter, and this literally just pulled out and broke off the same way that the vacuum line on the back of the intake manifold broke off, and I didn't know where it went, but it actually goes to that, which is the the vacuum pump. So first off, I'm going to try and poke this down kind of roughly where it was. I think this was actually in this hook here, that little hook there, which is the oil dipstick tube, and then we'll be able to get it underneath the car. So underneath the car now, and this is the end of the line I just poked down, and it looks to me as if this goes into that clip there, through this bit, through this clip here, and then onto there. You can clearly see where that's broken off the fuel filter. Now I will be changing these little pipes and these clips. There's two on the other end of the fuel filter as well. I'll probably do that in the next video though, because I'm going to be doing a full service at the same time and do everything else, like air filters and oil and stuff like that. Oh, great. I just need a bit of pipe to literally go from there to there, so I can start by removing the old pipe. Silicone spray is going to be my best friend there. So your car probably won't have this random line in, it might have the original line, but if I were you, I'd just buy enough length of your new line to go straight from there to the little elbow that goes into the air intake boot, which I think I will order some more line now, and when I change the fuel filter, I'll have to take this off anyway, but when I change the fuel filter I will put that on. So what I want to do is clean up this, the idle control valve. It's supposed to make a sound like that when you shake it, so I mean it's still working properly. But if you look in there, there is a lot of black build up and stuff, so I'm going to try and clean that out. Other thing I'm going to do is clean the throttle body. Well, I say clean it, I actually already cleaned it off camera, which I'm a bit annoyed at because it was dead satisfying, because it was filthy. I just got some of this. This is air intake and carb cleaner, which is apparently pretty much the same thing. So I just literally used that, sprayed it around there, and it made all the black stuff disappear. It was great. Now this gasket here, it doesn't need replacing really, but I just kind of wanted to refresh all the rubber. So I've got a new one of them here. New gasket going in there. And the other thing, I bought an O-ring for the diesel valve, because basically the diesel valve sits in the intake manifold like that, right? And it's supposed to obviously be an airtight seal there, and mine is quite easy to pull in and out. Very easy in fact. So what I wanted to do was change this orange rubber thing around here, and I don't think there's a part number, I can't remember why, but I don't think there's a part number for it, and I found this O-ring online, and I've since realised, I thought, yeah, it's black, it's not orange, what's the difference? But I soon realised there's another O-ring here. So yeah, there's that black O-ring there, which is the one I've bought, so I'll put that new one on there anyway. So I'll put that new one on, and then I'm going to try again to try and find the orange bit, because this is dead easy to access even with the intake on and everything, so I can just change that at a later date. Gaskets for the intake manifold, which go in there. Should there be a thing in there? Alright, it's actually been about a week since that last clip you just saw. I was going to install these new gaskets for the intake manifold, and I realised something's missing. So yeah, I was about to install these gaskets in here, and I then realised there's something missing here, and I thought, how the hell has that gone missing? Because I didn't even know that these could even come out. And as it turns out, these ones are all here, but as it turns out, they can fall out, and they did. So I reviewed my footage, and basically when I was stripping apart the intake manifold and taking all the old stuff off it to clean it, it literally just fell out on the floor down there. And I honestly, my mind's blank and I couldn't remember what I did with it or if I even seen it. So what I think I actually did is throw it away by accident, because I was taking apart the CCV down there on the floor and the old CCV, and I think I just threw it all away and picked it all up, and I probably just picked it up. It's literally this little plastic thing, and I think I just picked it up with the old CCV and threw it away. So I even went through all my bins to find nothing, because I think the bins had been emptied since. So what I managed to do this week is, luckily I finished work early one day and I went to a scrapyard. Actually, the second scrapyard I went to, I managed to find an M54 engine and find one of them little things. I was walking around a junkyard and I looked across and just saw a coupe, actually, with the bonnet open flat on the car, so that was like on the car like that, and I could just see an M54 staring at me. It was like gold, seeing a pot of gold. But anyway, I went and took the intake manifold off. I took all of these out of the intake manifold because I thought, why not? I might lose some. I also took some other bits. So you remember when I did the pulley and I was thinking there's something wrong here, and it's not wrong, it's just some cars came with that tensioner pulley, some cars didn't. I actually took the bolt out of the car that was there, because the car that was there had that extra tensioner pulley, idler tensioner, whatever it's called. So I've got that bolt and I can install that new pulley that I got. Other things that I got a couple of these bolts out of the head cover, the valve cover, because, you know, why not? I've heard a few stories of people stripping the things. I've got a few washers, and just because I took it off anyway, I picked up some throttle body housing bolts just in case. You never know what might happen with them. And I grabbed a couple of these off like the electrical thing for the fuel rail and the injectors. This because these actually clip onto here, and I lost one of them, and I thought I might as well grab a few just in case I lose any more. So actually going to the scrapyard was quite good. So now we can finally, I know it's not been long for you because it's all in the same video, but for me it's just, the intake manifold's actually been off the car for like a month, and that is just from finding parts, finding the time to do it around work and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess this is just the way it is with project cars. So let's finally get all this back together, get the intake manifold back on, and maybe start it today. We can get our new gaskets in. This is really satisfying, pushing these in. Nice. Also, do you know what? Because I bought some anyway, because 50's kid told me to, I've got some of this line. I mean, this one's fine really. Maybe some very slight cracks in the rubber, but I don't think this is the original hose anyway. Otherwise it'd probably be a lot worse off. But I bought some, so I'm just going to install that anyway as well. I honestly don't know what I would do without silicone spray. So I'm just going to cut the same one to size. Jesus. Right, so our old bolt out. And in with the new one. Finally. I'm so happy I actually found that. So. Oh, come on, please fit. Yes. So make sure the little nub on the end of the thing, this little nub lines up on the alternator. I guess this is technically the first modification I'm doing. Right then, now the torque for this is 45 Newton meters. This is the torque specs that I read by accident for the tensioner underneath it when I broke the bolt. We could finally put back the rest of this stuff. So I think I'll put this back next. This is the power steering fluid reservoir. These lines seem okay. I mean, they definitely look old and are probably the original ones. And I'll probably replace them at some point, but I just want to fix the problems before we do anything else like that. I mean, yeah, I know I've done the water pipes which weren't leaking anyway and stuff like that, but that's because I can't really get to them with the intake manifold on, whereas all the power steering lines and stuff you can do with the intake manifold in place. So yeah, that's why I've done that. These little metal clips need to go back on this electronics thingy, because remember when we took it off, you had to take the clip off to pull this off. Well, luckily to put it on, you just put the clips back into place and you can just push it on, which is quite a good design actually. So a couple more things I want to do before we put the intake back. The plastic stuff that surrounds these wires is just been disintegrating, so I'm just going to wrap some tape around that. And do you remember that vacuum line that I didn't know where it went? Well, I also found out where it goes, bought some line which goes from that little black thing next to the starter, which is the air pump, I believe. So I'm going to put the end of this on to that, and then that goes into the back of the intake manifold, and I'll cut it to size when the manifold's pretty much in place, so I know how much I need. Right, another thing I need to remember to do is plug that back in, which is the goes onto the engine coolant temperature sensor, which is there, because that you're not going to get to that when the intake manifold's off. I might connect the fuel rail now as well. Ooh, there you go. So you just push that in and there should be a nice click for you to know that's in. Which will probably be underneath that one actually, because basically both of those things go together on top of the manifold like that in a way. So they're both ready. I think we're about ready now. So move these electrical stuff out the way. That goes to that elbow thing. These connectors go to whatever they go to. This one actually is the only one that plugs into the box rather than the box having a wire going to something, and that goes to, I think, the Vanos solenoid or Vanos something or other. So I'm actually going to plug that one in now. Intake manifold here, ready to go in. So what is going to be the best way doing this? Now I've got to remember this cable threads through the manifold, so we need to remember that. These lines go over the top, that one connects to, I'll show you where it connects to, but that goes onto the Vanos there. This is the top of the dipstick return tube, that needs to go onto the bottom of the CCV, so we'll need silicone spray and compressed air. This is it, folks. I don't know if that oil return tube should come underneath this electronics box. I think it should. So that needs to go kind of up there. Let's spray. Silicone spray. Do you know what? Hit that with a little bit of it as well, because that's going to be difficult to get on. Compressed air, let's give everything a blast out. And finally remove the tissues. Now, if you remember when I first took the manifold off, I was worried that in there was bits of metal shavings. And I actually just thought, if I just get a magnet and go around in there, if there's metal shavings it'll pick it up, and nothing was picked up. Someone on the forums actually said it could just be deposits of carbon, that because they're covered in oil, they kind of shine a bit in the light. So I'm not too worried about that, and we're going to give them a good blow out with compressed air as well. So that power cable was threaded up through there, I think, so we can get that started. These two went over the top. Oh, hang on, I've threaded that wrong, so that actually comes up there. Things are happening. I don't know how I'm going to connect that dipstick tube, to be honest. So you need to be pulling this battery cable through as you're dropping it down, so it doesn't get trapped. This is fiddly, to say the least. That's almost in position there. I think what's stopping us is these. They need to be coming up there, so that's where they live. Oh. Oh. Wow, I've actually got all the threads through there, but we still haven't got this dipstick tube on. So yeah, we need to try and do that somehow. Ah. Forgot to put that vac line on. Right, so let me pause here. Couple of things which you might want to know. This electrical cable, which goes to the thermostat and then down to the Vanos, just make sure that one's running out between, I think it goes between there or possibly between the filter housing there, but either way one of them two is fine because that connector perfectly goes to there. Come on, light. Next thing, obviously we've got that vacuum line that needs to go on the back of the intake manifold, so I might have to pull it out a bit again to get that in. Other thing, if you can see down here, there, I'm touching with a screwdriver, is where the bolt holds the intake manifold on the bottom, and that wire there is the wire that goes to the alternator, so I need to try and get it behind that wire, which I'm probably going to do with a screwdriver and just try and, you know. Then the other thing is the oil return tube that goes onto the bottom of the CCV here, this one. This is going to need to go under our water pipe, which I wish I did before I put the intake on. But that needs to go, oh, that's not even that hard. So that needs to go under there, and then it lines up perfectly with the bottom of that, so I'll try and get that on. I'll need 2 hands for that. So yeah, other than that we're doing pretty well so far. Ooh. I said it wasn't going to be easy, and it was. Fairly sure that's on there. Oh. Nope, I just pulled it straight off again. And that bottom thing is being annoying, and I've decided I'm going to pull the manifold off. I'm going to take that bottom thing, what's it called now? Mine's gone blank. The dipstick return tube hose thingy from the CCV. I'm going to pull it off the dipstick, hopefully without pulling the dipstick out because that was a pain to get in as well. And then I'm going to put it on the bottom of the thing because basically I can't get enough force upwards to get it on properly where it is now. So I'm going to take this off, turn the manifold upside down, make sure it's properly on there because I do not want anything to be loose, and then I think it'll be easier to put it on the dipstick tube than it will to do this. Oh. Ooh. That was a bit of a click. Yes, that's on properly now. In case you're not sure how that goes on, it's the same as this one. So you see there's like a ridge. There's basically 2 clips either side. It's the same as this. So these 2 clips either side basically need to get over that ridge so they can hook behind it so it won't come off. And it's just hard to press it in far enough when it's upside down. But we've got it on now, so let's see if we can't get that onto the dipstick tube. It's on the threads, and that needs to go through there. Right, that's okay. Right, I need to post that dipstick tube under that water pipe again, back where it was. This is so fiddly. Let's get this vac line on the back again. So I'm going to be an expert in this soon. Right, so I've got a fuel rail the right way around now with that thing that goes there. Dipstick tube, let's finally get you on. Yes, done. Oh, that is the hardest bit done, I think. Next thing I'm going to do is this here goes on the bottom of this. I've forgotten what it is, but it goes on the bottom of there. Probably easier to connect it if you just take it off its little holder. So, silicone spray as per usual. Has that still got an O-ring on? Yeah, it does. Bit of silicone spray. Ooh, that was a nice click. And then that goes on its little metal prong. Right, we're getting somewhere now. That clip there, those wires I think will go back in there. And I'm guessing that's supposed to clip into that, but it doesn't really. Oh, there you go. So that clips into there, and then that one goes into that one. Ah, but before you put that on, it had a clamp on it. Got a new clamp, because the old one was the single use type thing that comes from BMW. So yeah, this is that vac line will go onto there, onto that bit, and then that bit will go into the upper intake boot. But I'll put that on last just because. And then this line I think will clip back into there, into that clip on there. Can't really do that with one hand, but I will do that. Right, let's get some bloody bolts in the bastard. These are all 11mm nuts. I'm so dropping this damn bolt. Fucker. I don't know if you saw in that last clip, but I actually dropped one of the nuts for the intake manifold and I had to take the whole thing off and I couldn't find it for ages. I had to jack the car up and I eventually managed to find it whilst I was lying under the car. And down here, if you remember, on the side of the engine there's all sorts of like slats and stuff, and it was actually just sitting in one of them. Right then, the bottom nut going in. It's quite difficult to get to, but hopefully I won't fucking drop this one as well. Can't actually find a torque spec for this one online, so I'm just going to do it tight but not too tight. That does, I think. And all the nuts along the top are torqued to 15 Newton meters. I don't think there's actually a sequence to tighten these, like if it was on the oil pan or something like that, or the valve cover, so I'm just going to kind of do them randomly and hope that it is fine. It should be fine. Right, so now that's torqued down, I'm going to put the fuel injectors back in. So I cleaned them before, but I'm going to make sure, I've just given them a quick wipe to make sure that the very end of that nozzle is perfectly clean, because that's the bit that really matters. When I took them out there was dirt around this area, which doesn't really matter because that's not going into the chamber, but yeah. I'm going to hit them with some silicone spray again, just to make sure they go in properly, because there's an O-ring there and an O-ring there. So yeah, well, they're not very easy to push in. I think what I'll do is put each one in, kind of push it in a little bit, and then get the fuel rail on top of them and try and push it all in together. Right then, I'm going to try and get each one sort of on its way into the fuel rail and then hopefully push down all at the same time. This might not go quite as planned. Okay, this isn't going as planned. This feels wrong. Shouldn't be doing that. I think they're almost in there. Put the bolts back. Now I don't think these have a torque spec either, so I'm just going to kind of do them tight but not too tight, and sort of on the lighter side of tight but not too tight. Okay, so one thing I actually forgot to do, the rest of the car's back together and I just remembered it when I was looking through all the bits that I've got left, is these little clips that go on the fuel rail and the fuel injectors, so make sure you remember to put them on. That little slot there goes onto the ridge of the fuel rail and those bits kind of go underneath it. There you go. Hopefully you can see there, those ridges are through the little sides of the clip. Now we can reinstall this, which just pushes on. Before I do that, I'm going to put this connector back on the Vanos, and this is the intake air temperature sensor. That one back on there. I was worried this CCV pipe was getting in the way, but oh yes. Right, I think that's all on where it needs to go. If you watch carefully when you're doing it, that little metal clip, the ones that I got from the scrapyard, you can see that expand and then snap back around the fuel injectors. From the CCV back on the Vanos, bit of silicone spray as per usual. Oh, look at that. Disgusting. That's on there, I think. Right, we're now ready to put the last few bits together. So before I put the throttle body and stuff on, I'm just going to connect a couple of electrical connectors in. I'm not too sure which ones they are just yet. Find out, because they're all, I don't know if I said before, but they're all keyed a certain way, so you can't actually put the wrong one on the wrong thing. But yeah, there's just the alternator one and the one I think it goes on the back of the oil filter housing. I'm guessing it coming out here because they're all just about like the right length as well. So there's one, there's two. And then the rest of the electrical connectors I think are pretty much going into stuff that we're putting on. Now I'll plug the electrical connector in. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what I've done there is this electronics box is held on to there's a little stud on the bottom of the throttle body, so I've just put that on there and I'm going to put the nut back on it now. Put that on hand tight, and then the rest of the connectors, it's fairly simple where they go to because they're all pretty much the right length and it's dead easy. Next we're going in with the idle control valve. So this needs to go into that grey rubber grommet which is in the intake manifold, so why not hit it with some silicone spray. That's the electrical connector for that. Oh. There you go, that's in. And then that goes on there, the electronics box thing goes onto that stud, and then you get your two screws for the control valve. Just going to do these ones hand tight. Nice and snug. There we go. Also a little bolt for holding this electronics box on. Can go back in there. That's worrying me, I don't know what that's for. Oh, aha, it goes onto there. So that one goes onto, it looks like the other side of the oil filter housing. Okay, next I think I'm going to put back the bolt for the oil dipstick tube, which is that 13mm bolt with a washer. And put back the lower intake boot. Now it's good to make sure that your clips are all going to be facing in a direction where you can get to them. So yeah, I would recommend doing that, just kind of test fitting the airbox and make sure it's in the right angle. Tighten up as well. Right then, now this little thing goes into there, like that, and then this pipe that we put on before, might need to cut that down a little bit just so it's the perfect length, goes onto there. You'll never guess what's next. Silicone spray. My best friend. Oh, that was nice. And then that one goes on there. Do you know what? I'm not going to bother cutting that down. It's fine as it is. Okay, next I'm going to put the diesel valve in. Now I did say before that I wanted to get a new one of the orange O-rings that for there, which I do still want to get. I'll try and find one because I don't think it has a part number. It's just kind of all one unit. Because that's just gone straight in there. That should be very tight around there because it's an airtight seal, but you can literally get to that without taking anything off, so I'm putting it back on for now. Again, just kind of snug with these, no torque for them. So let's get the electrical connector on for the diesel valve, which is this looking one. Nice. And there should only be one electrical connector remaining, which is for the MAF. Airbox going back in with this little ducting thing. Goes into there. case you hadn't noticed, I did give this a clean out along with everything else. New air filter going in. Make sure that's nice and snug in there. So the MAF goes in this way with the electrical connector facing towards the passenger side, and basically these two things clip, those two clips clip into them two bits, so it's quite easy to get the right way around. I'm wondering whether it's easy to actually get it in the boot first. Well, it's in. Don't like the way these intake boots sit. I'm wondering if they're just rubbish aftermarket ones. The condition of them is fine, that's why I've not replaced them, but it just doesn't sit on there very well. Well, we'll go with it for now, and then I might just get some OEM ones or something, because that fitment isn't great. There's one side, and there's the other side. And then last but not least, the electrical connector on there. And I also almost forgot these two connectors. So that one goes onto the thermostat, and then that one, those two go. There's two connectors down at the bottom, down there on the Vanos. This thread's behind the thermostat down there, and it was difficult for me to pull out, so it's going to be even more difficult for me to put back in. But because I'm going to be doing the thermostat and the Vanos and everything like that, I'm just going to run it in front for now. This heat shield can go back in. I should have done that before I reassembled everything, to be honest, but I forgot. Oh god, I really should have. This is not easy to get in. This can go back on. And this is pretty much the final thing, I think. Battery cable can go back on there. Well, it's technically not the final thing, because there's the tray that goes here which holds the cabin air filter, and then I've not put the electric fan back just because I thought I'm going to be replacing the cooling system anyway. And the electric fan doesn't actually kick on even when it gets up to temperature if it's sat idling. If it's really, really hot outside, or if you're driving it under load, that's when the electric fan comes on, or if you're using the aircon. So I've just left that out for now, because who knows, I might end up having to take all this apart again if I mess it up. So yeah, that's that back on there. These clips just go in the fuel rail, which hold the O2 sensors. I'm just going to put some more water in, because we lost a fair bit of water through the coolant from when we replaced them pipes underneath. I'm just going to fill it with tap water, because I'm going to be doing a full flush and putting the original BMW coolant in anyway, so if you're topping up the system using tap water is fine. So you need to remove that. Oh, and do the bleed screw thingy, don't you? And then as soon as I started the car, I'm just going to set the heaters to full temperature, as in completely hot. The fan doesn't have to be on full, I don't think, but take this bleed screw out, leave that there, why not? Just going to put a bit of water in there. Hopefully it's not coming straight out again. Right, I just need to reconnect the battery, and we're going to try the first start. I'm fairly sure I've put everything back how and where it should be, but you never know, do you? So I'm going to go into the ignition. I'll set the heaters to full to get that circulating around the coolant, and we'll see what happens. I'm nervous. Keys in the ignition. She's in neutral. Don't know what that noise was. Let's get that on full. You know, I'm going to do this a couple of times to hopefully get some fuel pressurised in that fuel rail, because I'm expecting there not to be a lot of fuel in there. Here we go. She lives. Oh, don't know what those bangs are. Oh, I'm pissing out. It's running rough. Right, I'm fairly sure that actually ran worse than before I put all these new parts on and did all this work. But it's not over yet. I'm going to start the car again, I think, because all I've done now, I've taken the belt off, cleaned it, and tried to clean as much coolant up from around the pulleys as I can. I've taken this pulley off, which was the Isla one, which I thought was missing from the engine at the start, but in actual fact it just never had one. So I've taken that off because I could also feel like I could hear some sort of noise coming from one of the pulleys. So I've taken this one off. None of them I can't hear anything when I run this or the tensioner down there, and they're the two new ones, so it might be something else. Maybe the power steering pump's making a bit of noise. But other than that, I've got new spark plugs, so we need to do a service and stuff like that, so there's still a lot of other things that could be making it run rough. But yeah, just a bit disappointed really, but at least it did run and it didn't cut out or anything daft like that. See, I'm wondering if me hammering the fuel rail back in has damaged the injectors or anything like that, or maybe the injector had a bit of dirt in. Could be a dodgy fuel injector. There's so many things which it could be. But yeah, I think we'll try and start it now without this pulley and see, because maybe that makes a difference, I don't even know. Okay, this time we've got IMPA running, so let's try and set this up. See if this can't read anything. Okay, F4, error memory. Read error memory. As we had last time anyway. And maybe some more. Let's clear that anyway. So yeah, let's go for a start up, see what happens. The error memory again. So we only get one error code come back up there. So it still doesn't sound great. Oh my god. That sounds awful. Alright, so after clearing the error codes and finding them again after a couple of revs, basically we've got that 125, I'm not too sure what that one is, I need to Google that, I'll do that in a minute, but basically we've got this, so cylinders 4, 5 and 6 are misfiring basically. No idea why, but for some reason my gut is just telling me that it's fuel injectors that have done something, so I guess the next thing to do would be swap some of the fuel injectors around and see if the misfire follows them. Right then, where do we go from here? I think I'm going to leave this episode here, and in the next episode we'll be trying to fix these issues. I know I just said that I think it's the injectors that's probably the issue, but I've also got new spark plugs and a new valve cover, because it could still be vacuum problems with the valve cover. So, not valve cover gasket, sorry. So I've got a new one of them, and I'm going to put that on in the next episode, and then we'll try again, put new spark plugs in, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, this might have been helpful for you, might not. But whether it has or hasn't, please subscribe, leave a comment, do all that stuff, and join me in the next episode to see if we can actually finish fixing this. Also, that error code 125, the first one that come up, that's only come up because I've not got the electric fan in, because I didn't put it in because there's not much point, because I'm probably going to take it all apart again. So yeah, join me in the next episode. There's going to be a lot more episodes as well. We're going to do the cooling system and everything like that. I've got a new radiator, I've got a new aircon condenser as well, and I need to try and find an aircon unit from somewhere. So yeah, thanks for watching, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bloody car.